It's such a pleasure to introduce our next guests for a conversation on being a multi-hyphenate. First, please welcome our moderator, the Director of Culture and Entertainment at Out Magazine, Tre'vell Anderson, and our guest speakers, Alok Vaid, Jordan Roth, and Jacob Tobia.
Hello, is it on? Is it on?
Ooh.
You love the outfit? We came ready, as you can tell.
Yes.
We're not gonna not show up.
Hey.
All right, how's everybody doing? I'm glad y'all stayed. This will be the best panel all day, I promise you. Yeah, I said it, it's fine. Shout out to Patty though, if she can hear me. So this is the Being a Multi-Hyphenate panel. We have all of these fabulous, wondrous people who do too much. And so we're gonna talk about being able to do too much kind of flawlessly. So I'll start with you, Jacob. I want each of you to kind of give us an introduction of what your entry into whatever work that you do was, what platform or what field it was in, and then talk about how you began making the transition into other spaces.
So I guess I would say that the beginning of my hyphens started, I actually started kind of in like the LGBTQ movement, like working sort of formally in the policy space, and then had this moment when I was in DC where I was like, oh, I think my gender is a little too much for the political sphere at the present moment. And also like being an artist in DC, like even if I were like a cis lady, they would be like, that pantsuit is cobalt. We're gonna need lapis or navy thereof. Like, so sorry. So I was like, okay, and then this one convinced me to move to New York and was like, please don't do that to yourself anymore. And I was like, okay. And then started sort of doing more like media and like writing stuff, but always from kind of a movement perspective, but like via personal essay about like non-binary, gender non-conforming, blah, blah, blah. Before that was like as much on the map, I think, as it is today. And then that segued into being like, I think I just wanna be like comedian lady and author lady and like write memoirs and maybe make a TV show. And so now I'm just like all over the map and very distracted and not good at giving elevator pitches ever.
Thank you.
That was a good one.
That was really good, yeah.
I mean, that was like a big building though. Like if that was the elevator pitch, that was like at least 70 floors.
69
Hi.
floors.
69.
Oh,
Aim
round
high.
yeah.
What about you, Jordan?
So I started in the theater. I always thought growing up that I would be an actor. And then very soon after college, I started producing, and then started running a Broadway theater company, the theaters themselves, not just the shows, and that's what I do now. But the sort of expanding of canvas into the hyphens, I think, for me, came from a desire to sort of live on the nexus of art and commerce. So I am a creator and a business of creativity person. And I really like being on both of these axes. But it often feels like there's a pretty bright line between those two things. In a lot of industries, even the words say, your creative and your business. So in the theater, right, we have a creative team. And the creative team is the director and the writer and composer, if there is one, choreographer, designers, and that's the creative team, not the rest of everybody. Implication being those people are not creative or not generative. In advertising, you have the creative department and the account department. And so that's a line that I reject and try sort of daily to jump back and forth on. And then within the creative, the medium for me has been theater for a very long time and now is expanding in exciting and really interesting ways. All of them, though, towards how do I express who I am and what I think.
Before you start, Alok, I'm just realizing that these are photos of yourself on your jumpsuit.
Yeah.
And it's everything. It's everything. But talk to us a little bit about you. What was your kind of first entryway into the work that you do? And talk to us a little bit about the stuff that you're doing now.
Sure. I started out as a poet, which is a really romantic way of saying I was an emo kid with a lot of feelings. And I wore my girlfriend's jeans and cried and call it poetry. And then I became a performance artist because I felt like the stage was the only place that I could experiment with my gender and be affirmed and celebrated for it. But then I started to realize that the stage felt like a cage because society's comfortable with gender nonconforming people when we're entertaining them, but when we're educating them, it's crickets. And so I started to think about how do I take all of the lessons I've learned from performance art and live arts and bring them into activism, bring them into media, bring them into fashion. So now I've been designing gender-neutral fashion for the past few years, and it's not boring and gray, and actually fun, thank you. And I've been also really trying to find creative ways to depict a world without the gender binary. Because I think so often when people think about ending the gender binary, they think it's like really boring and like drab, but I think ending the gender binary looks like this, you know?
Amen, yes. Jacob, talk to us a little bit about, you mentioned, so Jacob wrote a book earlier this year. Sissy, A Coming of Gender Story is the title. At your local bookstore, go pick it up. And you mentioned in your intro that you are kind of having conversations, trying to have conversations about adapting it into some other thing. I'm wondering how those conversations are going, mainly because, to call back to something you said, Jordan, I feel like people, there are a lot of gatekeepers, and there are a lot of thoughts about what belongs in this space and what belongs over here. So how's that experience been for you trying to move through these varying different spaces that people historically or traditionally might say, you know, your type of story doesn't belong in?
Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, I think in some ways the erasure of like non-binary and gender non-conforming people in traditional media and storytelling and scripted television and movies and all that stuff is a curse in terms of like getting work as an actor. But in some ways it's a blessing because it was kind of like, well, honey, if you want to make a TV show, you got to create it yourself, you know? Like, you have to, you're not allowed to just be like a TV star, you have to be a creator star. Like, that's your only option, like, have fun. And it's a tall order, obviously. It's not easy to kind of like get that together. It's not easy to make that happen, but in some ways it's a blessing because it's pushed me to be like, oh, I actually need to be a universe builder in addition to being a performer. And so, you know, I didn't know when I sold my book that it was like sort of one of the key ways of potentially unlocking that kingdom, queendom. What's a less monarchical?
Queendom.
Queendom. You know, but it's sort of, that's how it's ended up where, you know, I put out the book or I sold the book, and even the moment I sold on the proposal, people were like, okay, so now you get an agent to represent it for book to film, and then, you know, then we're gonna pitch production companies, then you're gonna find a production company to option it, then you're gonna find a showrunner, and then you're gonna pitch to networks. And over the past year and a half, I've been kind of like chugging along through that process. And actually it's kind of gone like stupendously, and I'm like really excited because we optioned the book with Legendary Television. They're like really huge and wonderful, and like the creatives I'm working with over there are like top notch. And then we actually just attached a showrunner recently, Michael Lannon, who he created Looking on HBO. And like, you know, really he's sort of like able to help me take all my ideas and like actually put them into a structure that's watchable, which is like a really nice gift. And then now we're about to get to the part where we're gonna be starting to pitch the show. And the thing for me, I feel like what I've come to hold about the work that we do is that for every person who kind of makes it or breaks through some big barricade, you know, there were like 30 people or 40 people or thousands of people who tried and didn't succeed in getting all the way, but got close and like created territory and sort of like, you know, created space for that person to ultimately break through. So for me, you know, it will be great if this gets bought and made and we get a series order and we get to make it all the way to television. And if not, I have great faith that like the work I'm doing now is going to really push down some barricades such that someone else is gonna be able to come behind me and like sell their shit. My only hope, in case you're out there, is that you will hire me if that is you and not me, okay? So we're just gonna make a little compact. That's what I tell all my friends though. No, like I'm friends with so many different people who are like creating and making shows and hustling their shit, and I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna hire you, you're gonna hire me, one of us is gonna like get a series order. We don't know who it's gonna be, it's total chaos, it's not even a meritocracy. So just like whoever gets it, be nice to everybody else, and remember that like we made a little like, you know, like a little verbal contract.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Jordan, how's it been for you straddling these worlds, the business world and the creative world, and being, you know, a business person who's creative or a creative person who's business oriented?
We'll take that. You know, it gets easier and easier and easier. Generally, I think people want you to be the thing that you are or have been. And that expectation can be daunting. I think there's no difference professionally and personally around that. But then once you are, then all of a sudden the expectations for you are that much bigger. And so, yes, we expect you, we are excited to see what you're wearing that we know is not gonna look like a business person that we imagine when we think business person or theater owner or company leader. And that was surprising the first couple times, and then, great, bring it. What do you have for us today? And that was a little surprising for me, I will say, because I thought, ooh, how's this gonna go? And with each day that it goes well, the next day goes even better. And then I think I start to have conversations with people that are wanting to do the same kind of line leaping, whatever their line is. And if it's manifested or expressed in how they dress or present, if it's manifested in the kind of work they're doing or the different medium that they're jumping around, there's something about watching somebody else do it that makes you think you can do it too, very much to what you were pointing us to. And there are those people who are that for me, and those people who I am that for. And that just sort of makes the canvas bigger, whatever the canvas is.
Alok, and this question is for all of you, but I want to start with you, Alok. What are some of the challenges that you've had in being a multi-hyphenate, in starting as a poet, moving to the performance artist space? Now you have, what, 3 fashion collections you've done. What have been some of the challenges for you in doing so?
So many. Unfortunately, we live in a world that requires us to be a category in many extents of what that means. And people have been taught to fear people who are defying categories because it implicates them. People always say that we're too much, but I always respond, you're just not enough. So it's difficult because people really want to pin you down in terms of gender, in terms of politics. There's a commitment to the purity and the authenticity of a boundary. And the work that I do is actually not just about unsettling the boundary, but completely repudiating it. And actually saying I don't need to be contained, because for me, categorization is containment. And as an artist, my creativity surpasses any extent to sort of create parameters around it. But I think that the challenge actually looks like really bad pushback whenever you refuse to be held still. When you're a creative person and you are queer and you are brown and you are gender nonconforming, people want to make you into either a sob story or a triumph story, tragedy or triumph. And when you actually say, no, I'm creating something else outside of those binaries and logics, people don't know how to contain you, so they dispose of you. So it can feel very isolating and lonely whenever you have an incredible vision of a world that doesn't exist right now, But then I think I returned to the fact that most creatives that we admire posthumously, when they were making work, were not receiving their roses, were not receiving their flowers, but they were committed to a form of living beyond the boundaries of their life, which meant that their work was a way of saying, my vitality will surpass my death. And so a lot of what I'm trying to do with my work is to leave legacy and to document how utterly fabulous and irresistible I was, and how ridiculous everyone else was for not being able to experience it.
I love that. Jordan, Jacob, any other challenges that you're experiencing in kind of doing the work that you're doing?
Well, I mean, I'll jump in to say also that, like, in terms of learning how to document your life and letting people know throughout, across history and time that you're missing out, I definitely learned a lot from you, Alok. Back, like, we lived together this one summer ages ago, and we were in college, and I'd never, like, seen someone so confidently be like, you need to take my picture now, we need to go do a photo shoot. And I learned so much about how to be like, here's what I need, and I need you to help me with it right now, okay? Because I can't do that. I can't get a full body photo of myself. And I just—
We can't wait.
We can't wait. No,
Yeah.
like, this look is vital. Like, this look is important. It is historic. It is triumphant. I need a proper photo of it. And the lighting has to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, this needs to be museum quality because this is museum quality.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So just wanted to, thank you for that, sis. But yeah, I think one of the challenges I have with this multi-hyphenate thing is that when you're different in any way, when you're a person of any kind of difference, when you're a person who's marginalized in any sort of way, there's this expectancy that you are going to be meek and small, right? That you must make yourself meek and small as a way of apologizing for existing. And I don't do that in any way, shape, or form, and I can tell there are so many people who hate me for it.
Right.
Like, there are people that look at me like, who the fuck do you think you are? And it's interesting because, as I've gotten a little bit older, what I've also come to understand is that people see all the things that I want and all the things that I want to make and all the things that I want to do, and they see all the hyphens, and at a certain point they think they're just like, you feel very entitled, right? Like, why do you feel so entitled to all of these things, right? Like, you can't make a fashion line and have a TV show and be a respected author who's in the New York Times bestseller and also maybe be a recording artist one day. That's ridiculous. You're so entitled. And the thing that I'm trying to tell people more is like, well, yes, I am entitled, absolutely, but that took a lot of hard work. Right? Like, I worked really hard to become entitled, and I'm not entitled from a place of capitalism or scarcity. I'm entitled from a place of socialism and abundance, right? Like, yes, I don't believe that there is any scarcity of talent in this world. I truly believe that almost anyone, when given the resources, the investment, the nurturing, could make a brilliant TV show. I truly believe that. I think there are like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people who deserve to be creator stars, who deserve to to do stadium tours, who deserve to be on Ellen, right? Like, there are just so many thousands.
Who deserve to be Ellen, though.
Who deserve to be Ellen, yes. Who deserve to live in Montecito too.
Yes.
There's so much talent out there, and I'm trying to lead by example of being like, let's not act in scarcity, let's not accept that narrative, and let's name that, like, we don't live in a meritocratic industry. The people who make it are not necessarily the most talented, because talent is not something that is finite. So I think that's the thing that I'm really learning to own about multi-hyphenate existence, is to learn to say, like, yeah, I believe in possibility and in human possibility and in the talent of people who have been historically not represented. And I think we should all yearn for everything. We all should yearn for all of the abilities to manifest our skills and to be nurtured and to be invested in. Yeah.
Jordan, any unique challenges of your particular experience that you'd like to share?
I think everything you both have said really resonates for me. The only thing I would add is I think the stories we tell ourselves can often be a really great challenge to move past. Allowing others to be better than we expect them to be, to want for us what we deign to want for ourselves. And sometimes the stories we tell ourselves about what we can do, what we should do, how it will be received, what will they say, is worse than what comes back, or actually, we don't even know if it's worse because those stories can sometimes stop us from even getting to that part of the conversation.
I think one of the things that you all are saying that really resonates with me, I'm kind of at a point in my career where things are starting to pop off, you know, praise God. But I have a lot of people who believe that the things that are popping off for me shouldn't be popping off for me because I'm a journalist. And because I'm a journalist, one, I'm not supposed to show up in the world of journalism in this way, and then two, there's a certain way that you just move through that world, right, as a journalist. So I'm wondering from each of you, like, what's some advice that you have for folks that are beginning to make that transition into other spaces, other fields that they didn't necessarily start in, but that they seem to be called towards?
All of these designations were made for rich white men. To survive as a marginalized person is to be a performance artist, is to be a journalist, is to be a fashion designer, is to be an actor. We don't need to go to school because we survived. And our survival was a creative triumph. And I think for so long, the only imagination I had of so many things was a kind of white, masculine professionalism, such that the only place I could imagine myself was a stage. And then I began to think, the world is actually my stage.
Amen.
And I began to learn my history and recognize that gender nonconforming, racialized people are the foundation of American culture. That actually the relationship between entertainment culture and Hollywood has always been one of extraction. That they came to our drag shows, that they came to our clubs, they saw what we were wearing, they put it on the runway, they made billions of dollars off of us. So I seek it as a reclamation. Every room that I get into, every gig that I get, I see it as saying, wow, thank you so much for giving me what I deserved 10 years ago. And actually saying, I don't need to call myself a performance artist. These are all things I do to make myself intelligible to you. I'm an experience that transcends and will always surpass any kind of word that you put on me.
I don't know if y'all can hear me, but like I'm going and amen the entire time.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in the black church, forgive me, okay? Oh, hey. Those are the 5 black people in the audience. That was a joke, okay? Jordan.
You're not supposed to be funny, you're a journalist.
Yeah.
Right.
Journalists don't make jokes.
Listen, we're very serious. Jordan, advice that you would give to your younger self of how to go through these worlds?
Oh, to my younger self, start sooner. I'll tell you, so I started producing very, very early. So I don't mean start the career sooner, but I was really young. And everybody who was working with me was, and as a producer for me, technically, was older than me. And I got this whole image in my head of what I had to present and be to allow that to be okay. And I literally turned around and there were 20 years that had passed, just like that. And I had actually forgotten what I was like before that. And then I started being myself in all of the ways that that is true, and literally thought, oh, this is sort of come out of me, and I forgot that this is what I used to be before I decided that I couldn't. So you didn't have to do that to your younger self.
Thank you for that. Jacob?
Well, I mean, first, I
You
just...
can clap.
Oh, yeah,
Go
can
ahead.
we?
Thanks, friends.
I guess first I would just say that like that, just kind of personally, that the journalist thing really infuriates me. Only because partially, like, there was a moment where I tried to be a journalist for a little bit. Like I tried to like apply to journalism jobs, and everyone was always just like, you're a little too political and have too many opinions. And I was like, you know that a lack of an opinion about about oppressions going on in the world is actually an opinion about them, right?
Right.
Like that not saying anything about stuff is actually a political stance. Like there's no such thing as neutrality. There's no such thing as objectivity.
Right.
Like these are mythologies that we've created to sustain oppression, and I need you to get a little bit like, I need you to like have that analysis, and then like, you know, like a fashion editor at BuzzFeed is like, I'm sorry. And I was just like, okay. But like, you know, it's like, I just feel like I had trouble like with being, because I was too much for that container, and I just resonate with, and I'm just like, I'm so excited to see just how too much you're going to be over the course of the next decade. Like no one knows, like no one's, I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited for you.
Thank you. It's coming.
But yeah, I think, you know, if I had to say something to my younger self, it would be this like weird sentence that I heard one time at a pool party in LA. Yeah, right. Which like that sentence in and of itself, I'd be like, you need to live a life, like you need to like let that sentence sink in that you're gonna say that one day on a panel. You will become that asshole. You are now that person. But no, I was at the Standard in West Hollywood, which is like of all the places to be the most insufferable for this story. And I was sitting by the pool at this like fundraising thing, and this guy just said to me casually in a conversation, he was like, yeah, everyone in LA is delusional until proven prophetic. And I literally gasped. I was like, and he was like, whoa, like you need to chill down a lot. And I was like, okay, pause. Like, can I use that? And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, can I use that? He was like, sure, I don't care. And I was like, no, but for real, if this is like a title of a chapter of my book later in my life, like, will you be mad? And he was like, no, like, chill out. Like, you need some weed. And so, you know, but that really stuck with me because I feel like that is something that I really spent a lot of time struggling with as like, you know, because I grew up in North Carolina, right? Like, I'm a piece of Southern trash. Like, I belong like out back, like by the dumpster outside of Bojangles. You know what I mean? Just like hanging out, texting
Shout out
my
to
friends.
Bojangles.
Like that's like where I need to be. Like that's where I should be in this world. And so like, you know, being in any of these spaces, I feel like anything that I've wanted has felt completely and utterly delusional. From expressing my gender authentically without like, you know, getting punched, or like living any life of safety and feeling secure in any moment in my life, like while expressing femininity, to wanting to like have my own TV show. All of those things have felt delusional. And I think that I've just really learned into being like, yeah, girl, like you need to be delusional until proven prophetic. And I wish I could go back and kind of, you know, shake my younger self a little bit and be like, you don't have to like embarrassingly write your dreams in a secret journal. You can just start telling people them, and they're gonna look at you like you're ridiculous, and then you're gonna wear an outfit to justify that, and it's gonna all be okay.
Okay, we've got a couple minutes left. I want to use this opportunity for you all to plug whatever you've got going on so that the people in the audience know where they can get more of your goodness. We'll start with Alok.
I mean, I have so much going on. Let's see. I am about to launch my 3rd fashion collection, and I really want to mass produce it. But I think we're in a moment in fashion right now where everyone's doing gender-neutral fashion, and by I mean that rich white cis people are taking our aesthetics and not paying actual trans and non-binary creatives. So I would love people to invest in me, thank you. And I am working on my first adult book, which is really confrontational and emotional. I'm really thinking and writing a lot about feelings, and I'm kind of exhausted by how we are told to be resilient and empowered and are not allowed to be tragic and broken and sad and hurt. And I want to think through pain, so I'm writing a lot about pain. I'm performing all over the world. The shows that I'm doing are about creating spaces where we can challenge the international crisis of loneliness. I've been thinking a lot about what it means to understand that we're in an emergency of loneliness and that we need to organize against it. So I've been using performance art as a way to create spaces where we can admit how desolate we are and actually create another way of relating to each other.
Lovely. Jordan?
We just opened Hadestown.
Yes.
Thank you, friends. Which speaks deep, deep to my heart and happily sounds like to yours too.
14 Tony nominations.
Thank you very much. We are loading in Moulin Rouge at the moment. So that will be here this summer. And right now, all I can think about is the next 2 days till Met Gala.
Yes. So stay tuned for the look.
See on my Instagram.
Yes.
You're not gonna want to miss it. I'm not.
I'll be the
kidding.
one that comments 76 emojis.
Take it. Take it. Yes. So a lot of what we've talked about, I am bringing with me there.
Lovely.
That's all I can say.
Jacob.
Well, I'm still kind of promoting and touring with my book, Sissy. I'd love if y'all would go out and buy it. It's a hoot. It's the messiest I let myself be on the page, and I think that hopefully that resonates with you if you are also a dumpster person. I am working on selling my first show, in case I didn't mention that. So it'll be great if that goes, and if that doesn't, I may need a job, so I'll maybe be calling some of y'all. And also, I'm really looking to like have my dating life be more exciting.
Wow, yeah.
Wow.
I'm gonna literally say this on every panel until I have a partner.
Every single one.
Literally every single one, because like being trans femme and wanting to be desired in this world is very difficult. And I don't know why, but like when I wear this, like people just like aren't immediately not everyone doesn't like immediately want to make out with me, and I just think that's sad. So I would just like to request all of your help in fixing that, and I'm open to be setting up with anybody. I'm willing to try it all. Like I'm you know.
Thank
just
you for that, Jacob.
That's what I'm working on.
Thank you so much. Can we get one more round of applause for them? Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All rise.
All rise.